I found out my girlfriend had replaced me while I was standing at gate 19, with her coffee in one hand and my boarding pass in the other. That is the detail my mind kept. Not the betrayal. Not the way my best friend looked away when I saw them together. Not even the fact that the woman I had loved for 3 years was about to board the same flight with someone else on her arm. It was the coffee, a paper cup, half warm, 2 sugars, no lid, because Kira always forgot lids and always expected me to fix whatever she forgot. 10 minutes earlier, she had handed it to me and said, "Hold this for a second, babe." Then she disappeared into the crowd. When she came back, her fingers were wrapped around Talia's. My Talia, my best friend since university. The woman who knew every ugly detail of my life. The woman who had sat on my kitchen floor at midnight while I cried about Kira becoming distant. The woman who had told me, "Maybe she's just stressed. Don't overthink it." And now she was standing beside Kira, wearing the scarf I had bought Kira last winter. At first, my mind tried to save me. Maybe Talia had stumbled. Maybe Kira was helping her. Maybe they were laughing because of some stupid airport joke. Maybe the way Talia's thumb moved across Kira's wrist was nothing. But then Kira saw me. Her smile did not disappear. That would have been mercy. It changed. It became careful, polite, almost sad, like I was an appointment she had been meaning to cancel. "Noor," she said, "just my name. Not babe, not love, not even an apology." Talia let go of her hand too late. That was the moment I understood everything, not because they were touching, because Talia thought letting go after I saw it could still protect me. I looked from her to Kira, then back to Talia. "What is this?" I asked. My voice sounded calm. Too calm, like it belonged to a woman watching herself from across the airport. Around us, people were boarding, arguing about overhead bins, checking passports, kissing children goodbye. Nobody had come to gate 19 to watch my life end. But people always notice when a woman is trying not to cry in public. Kira stepped closer and lowered her voice. "We should talk somewhere private." I looked at the glowing screen above us. Lisbon, Flight 408, boarding in 12 minutes. "Private?" I repeated. "You brought her to our flight." Talia's eyes filled with tears instantly. Of course they did. She had always been good at crying before anyone could accuse her. "Noor, please," she whispered. "We didn't want you to find out like this." I almost laughed. "How did you want me to find out? After the plane took off? At baggage claim? In the hotel room I paid the deposit for?" Kira's jaw tightened. She hated when I spoke clearly. She preferred my pain when it was soft enough to ignore. "Don't make a scene," she said. There it was. The sentence cruel people use when your reaction becomes more inconvenient than their betrayal. A man in a gray coat turned his head, then pretended to check his phone. A woman near the charging station stopped scrolling. Even the gate agent looked uncomfortable. I held Kira's coffee cup so tightly the lidless edge bent under my fingers. "How long?" I asked. Kira inhaled like the truth was exhausting her. "Noor, it's complicated. How long have you been sleeping with my best friend?" Talia covered her mouth. Kira looked around, embarrassed, not ashamed, embarrassed. 3 months, she said. 3 months. 3 months ago, I had been staying late at the studio, building the sound design that was supposed to get me noticed at the documentary festival in Lisbon. 3 months ago, I had sent Kira my first full test file and waited all night for her to say she was proud of me. 3 months ago, Talia had sat beside me while I explained how I wanted to hide a heartbeat rhythm under the ocean scenes, soft enough that the audience would feel it before they understood it. 3 months ago, they were already becoming a secret, and I was still handing them pieces of myself. The gate agent called boarding group 1. Kira lifted her carry-on handle. "You still have your ticket," she said. "I transferred your hotel share back. Check your account." I blinked. "You reimbursed me?" "I'm trying to be fair." Fair. She had taken my relationship, my best friend, my plans, and somehow money moving from one account to another made her decent. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. A bank notification. Memo. Lisbon adjustment. I stared at those two words until they blurred. Lisbon adjustment. As if my heartbreak was a booking change. As if my life had been edited by customer service. Talia stepped toward me. I still care about you. That was when something inside me went cold. No, I said. You care about being forgiven. Her face crumpled. Kira's expression hardened. This is why it became impossible, she said. You turn everything into a trial. I looked at her, then at Talia, then at the coffee cup in my hand. No, I said. You just hate witnesses. Then I walked to the trash can, threw away her coffee, wiped my palm on my coat, and boarded the plane. Because my ticket was non-refundable. Because my career was not going to miss the biggest festival of my life. And because I refused to let Kira have the satisfaction of watching me run. Before I tell you what happened in seat 7C, tell me honestly in the comments. If your partner showed up at the airport with your best friend, would you still board the flight, or would you walk away? Because I boarded. And that one decision changed everything. The plane smelled like coffee, winter coats, and recycled air. I walked down the aisle, counting rows like I was walking toward a sentence. 7B, middle seat, of course. Because heartbreak apparently comes with limited legroom. Kira and Talia were in row 9. Close enough for me to hear them if they laughed. Far enough that I could not accuse the airline of direct cruelty. Seat 7C, the aisle seat, was already occupied. At first, I noticed her hands, long fingers resting over a closed leather notebook, no rings, a silver watch, a fountain pen clipped neatly to the cover. Then I noticed the rest of her. Dark navy suit, black hair cut just below her jaw, with a few silver strands near her temple, sharp cheekbones, calm mouth, eyes so steady they made the entire cabin feel badly organized. She looked up when I stopped beside the row. 7B, I said. She moved her bag without complaint. Of course. Her voice was low, controlled. Not warm exactly, but precise. The kind of voice that did not beg for attention, because attention had learned to come when called. I slid into the middle seat and tried not to touch her sleeve. The window seat was empty. I fastened my seatbelt, but my hands had started shaking again. Now that I was sitting, now that I had nowhere to go, now that I had no role to play except passenger, the pain started returning to my body. The woman beside me looked at my hands, then at my face. "Are you all right?" she asked. I almost said yes. Women are trained to say yes when they are breaking in public. It saves time. It saves strangers from discomfort. But this woman did not look like she wanted comfort. She looked like she wanted accuracy. "No," I said, "but not in a way that will affect the safety demonstration." For 1 second, the corner of her mouth moved. Useful answer. I make lists when emotionally destroyed. Practical. Behind us, Kira laughed softly at something Talia said. My shoulders locked. The woman beside me heard it. She did not ask. She opened her notebook, tore out one clean page, and placed it on my tray table. "For messages you should not send," she said. I looked at the paper, then at her. "Do you always give stationery to crying strangers?" "Only on international flights." Despite everything, I smiled. It was small, broken, but it existed. "I'm Noor," I said. "Mara." "Mara what?" She hesitated for half a second. "Mara Voss." The name hit me late. Voss Arts Foundation, one of the biggest sponsors of the Lisbon Documentary Festival. The woman sitting beside me was not just another passenger. She was one of the reasons my project had even been shortlisted. I stared at her. "You're on the festival board." "Technically, I chair one of the funding committees." "That sounds worse." "It often is." Before I could embarrass myself further, a flight attendant stopped beside our row. "Ma'am, the window seat is open. We may need to move a passenger up from the back." Before I could answer, Kira's voice floated forward. "Noor gets anxious on flights. She might be better seated near us." My face burned. It sounded caring. That was the genius of Kira. She knew exactly how to humiliate me while looking helpful. The flight attendant glanced at me with soft concern. Talia whispered, "Kira, don't." But she whispered it the way people do when they want credit for objecting without actually stopping anything. I opened my mouth. Mara spoke first. "My fiancé is staying here." The cabin did not go silent. Planes never give you that kind of drama. Someone shoved a bag into the overhead bin. A baby coughed. A man argued with his headphones, but inside my body, every sound stopped. Mara did not look at me. She looked at the flight attendant. She prefers the middle seat during turbulence. I prefer the aisle. We are settled. The flight attendant nodded immediately. Of course. Behind us, Kira made a small sound. Tiny. Sharp. Beautiful. I turned slowly toward Mara. "Fiancé?" I whispered. "It seemed efficient," she said. "To invent an engagement? To end the conversation." I should have been offended. I should have said, "You cannot just fake propose to strangers at airports." Instead, I felt relief so sudden it almost hurt. Kira had tried to make me small in front of a stranger, and the stranger had made me impossible to dismiss. "You do realize that's insane," I whispered. "Not compared to whatever is happening 2 rows behind us." I stared at her for half a second. Then I laughed. A real laugh. Quiet, but real. Mara looked satisfied, though she tried to hide it by opening her notebook. When the plane began to move, my hands gripped the armrest. I hated takeoff, not because I thought we would crash, because I hated the moment when the ground disappeared before my body had agreed to trust anything. Mara noticed. Of course she did. She placed her hand palm up on the shared armrest. Not touching me, only offering. "Your fiancé is afraid of takeoff," she said softly. "My fiancé is reconsidering the engagement." Understandable. It was sudden. Another laugh escaped me. The plane lifted. For one bright, impossible second, we broke through the clouds, and the world below looked far enough away to survive. The first hour passed strangely. Mara ordered tea for both of us after asking, "Honey?" "No," she looked at me. "You are lying. You don't know me." "I know a woman refusing sweetness on principle." She requested honey anyway. I should have hated that. But when the tea arrived, my hands stopped shaking around the cup. Kira walked past our row toward the restroom. Her eyes caught on Mara first, then on me, then on the empty window seat, as if trying to calculate whether she had lost something she still owned. I expected triumph to feel better. It did not. It felt like standing in borrowed armor. Mara leaned closer, close enough for me to smell cedar and cold fabric. "You do not have to perform victory," she said. "What do I perform?" Breathing is sufficient. Nobody had asked so little of me in months. Kira had required constant emotional translation. Talia had required reassurance disguised as innocence. My clients required miracles by Friday. Mara Voss, who had known me for less than 2 hours, seemed satisfied that my lungs still worked. "Why did you do it?" I asked once the cabin lights dimmed. She kept her gaze on her notebook. "Because she used knowledge of you as a weapon." I swallowed. "You got that from 2 sentences? I have spent 20 years in rooms full of people who know how to make cruelty sound like concern." "That's dramatic." "No," she said. "It is quiet. That is why people miss it." I looked down at the paper she had given me. My hand moved before my mind could stop it. I wrote 1 sentence. "I hope you both choke on the hotel breakfast." Mara glanced at it. "Reasonable draft. Do not send." I laughed again. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Talia came to our row. She stood in the aisle wearing her cardigan like a shield. Her eyes were red. Her mouth trembled. "Noor," she said, "can we talk?" Mara did not look up. "My fiancé is resting." Talia blinked. "I wasn't talking to you." "Then speak with more care." The sentence was quiet enough not to disturb the row ahead, and sharp enough to make Talia step back. I could have let Mara protect me. Part of me wanted to, but a fake fiancé was not the same as a borrowed spine. I turned toward Talia. "What do you want?" Her eyes flicked to Mara, then to me. Is this real? I looked at her. Is your apology? She flinched. I never meant to hurt you. Then you should have made different choices before boarding with my girlfriend. She said you were already over. And you believed her, because that made it easier to want what I had. Talia's lips parted, closed, then parted again. I didn't want your life, she whispered. No, I said. You only wanted the parts that looked easy. Her face changed, just for half a second, but Mara saw it too. A tiny flash of fear. Not guilt about the affair. Something else. Something deeper. Talia stepped back. I'm sorry, she whispered. Then she returned to row 9. Mara closed her notebook. She is hiding something. I looked at her. You noticed that too? Yes. What? I don't know yet. Yet. That word stayed with me. Because until then, I thought the betrayal had already happened. I thought I had found the worst of it at gate 19. I was wrong. So if you are still listening, comment "she knows" below. Because that tiny look on Talia's face was the first clue that my ex had not only stolen my heart, she had stolen something much more dangerous. By the time we landed in Lisbon, I had spent 7 hours as Mara Voss's fiancée. My real life waiting at baggage claim felt less believable. Kira stood near Carousel 4 with Talia beside her, both pretending not to look at us while looking constantly. Mara stood beside me with my carry-on near hers. You can stop pretending now, she said. I should have felt relieved. Instead, my hand felt strangely empty, even though she had never given me a ring. Right, I said. Of course. Her eyes softened by 1 degree. You may keep the fiction until you are safely at your hotel, if you prefer. And if I never return it, then the breakup will require lawyers. I smiled. Kira saw. Her expression sharpened. Jealousy is strange when it arrives too late to matter. Outside arrivals, drivers held signs for festival guests. One had Voss Foundation printed in neat black letters. Another had documentary delegates. Kira stepped closer. Noor, she said. Can we not make this ridiculous? I turned. Which part? The affair, the plane, or my sudden engagement? Mara made a sound that might have been a laugh buried under manners. Kira looked at her. You don't know her. I looked at Kira. I didn't know you either, apparently. Talia whispered. Kira, leave it. But Kira had never known how to stop once control began slipping. Mara Voss doesn't do kindness for free, she said. Whatever game this is, Noor, you'll be the one paying. The temperature around Mara changed. She did not move. She did not raise her voice. But every word became exact. Ms. Rowan, you abandoned this woman in public, then attempted to use her fear of flying to manage her like luggage. I would be careful assigning motives. Kira went still. People always did when Mara named things too accurately. I should have enjoyed it more. But I was tired. I had crossed an ocean and somehow my pain was still standing at the same gate. I'll take the delegate shuttle, I said. Mara turned to me. You can. Or you can ride with me to the hotel and decide from there. There it was again. Choice. Not rescue. Not command. A door held open without being pushed. I looked at Kira. Then at Talia, then back at Mara. I'll ride with you. The car moved through Lisbon in late afternoon light. The city was gold and blue beyond the tinted glass, all tiled walls, narrow streets, wet stone, and scooters sliding through traffic like fish. Mara sat beside me, answering a message on her phone. I watched the city pass and tried to understand that I had become the kind of woman who accepted rides from mysterious, powerful strangers after fake engaging them on airplanes. My mother would have called that either danger or destiny, depending on whether the stranger had good manners. You should send your location to someone, Mara said without looking up. Do you instruct all your fake fiancés in self-preservation? Only the ones betrayed by people who know their routines. I sent my location to my studio assistant, Lena, who replied within seconds. You landed? Why are you at Voss Hotel? Are you alive? Do I need to call police or congratulations? I wrote back, long story. Then added, fake engaged. She sent 22 question marks and one skull emoji. At the hotel, I gave my passport to the receptionist. He typed my name, paused, typed again, then smiled, the way service workers smile when they are about to ruin your life politely. "I'm sorry, Miss Hale. Your reservation was cancelled 72 hours ago." My stomach dropped. "No, that's impossible. It was modified by Ms. Kira Rowan." Mara turned her head slowly. "Modified?" The receptionist looked nervous now. "Yes, Madame Voss. The room under the festival block now belongs to Ms. Rowan and Ms. Talia Iqbal." Of course, of course. Kira had not only brought my replacement, she had removed my place to sleep. I stepped away from the desk. "I can find somewhere else." Mara looked at me. "You are presenting tomorrow. I've slept in worse places. That is not a qualification." "Mara, my suite has 2 bedrooms, separate locks, and a private entrance. You may leave whenever you choose." I hated that she said it like that. Not, "You'll stay with me." Not, "I'll take care of you." Choice. Always choice. And choice was beginning to feel more intimate than rescue. "One night," I said. "One night," she agreed. Then her phone buzzed. She read the message. Her expression changed. "What?" I asked. Mara looked at me. "Your festival category. Just updated its finalist packet." "And?" "Kira's project contains a sound design statement extremely similar to yours." The lobby tilted. "No, not the film. Not my work. Not the heartbeat rhythm under the ocean scenes." Mara handed me the phone. And there it was. My language. My structure. My idea. Rewritten just enough to deny. Not enough to hide. Kira had not only replaced me in her bed, she had tried to replace me in my own career. I did not sleep that night. At 4:18 in the morning, I sat barefoot on the expensive carpet of Mara's suite, surrounded by laptop files, voice memos, screenshots, timestamps, and old messages. Mara sat across from me with coffee and terrifying calm. "You need a timeline," she said. "I need to scream. Both can happen. Timeline first." I looked at her. "You're very bossy for someone who fake proposed to me yesterday." I contain multitudes. She did not build the case for me. That mattered. She asked questions. She helped me find dates. She reminded me to eat half a croissant. But she did not speak over me. When the festival ethics chair agreed to meet before breakfast, Mara sat beside me silently. Witness. Not savior. When Kira entered the room, she looked annoyed. Not scared. That hurt more. She still thought I would fold. Talia came in behind her, pale and quiet. "Noor," Kira said, "whatever this is, can we not make it personal?" I opened my folder. This is dated February 11th. My first sound map. This is the voice note I sent you. This is the test export metadata. This is the email where Talia asked me to explain the underwater pulse layer. This is my private project board. This is the file access history. The ethics chair leaned forward. Kira smiled with tired patience. "This is emotional," she said. "We broke up yesterday, and Noor is clearly—" Mara moved for the first time. Only her eyes. "Finish that sentence carefully." Kira turned to her. "And what exactly is your role here?" Mara looked at me. She gave the answer back where it belonged. My voice shook, but it did not break. "She is my witness. Not fiancé, not sponsor, not lover. Witness." The ethics chair asked for silence. Then Talia started crying. Quietly at first. Then harder. Kira looked at her with panic. "Talia," she warned. But Talia shook her head. "I sent her the folder," she whispered. The room went still. Kira's face changed completely. I stared at Talia. "What?" Talia wiped her face with shaking hands. "Kira said she only wanted to understand your process. She said your work was stronger, and she needed to prepare for questions. She said you wouldn't mind because you were partners." My chest went cold. "You sent her my folder?" Talia sobbed. "I didn't know she would use it." I looked at the woman who had been my best friend. "You didn't know stealing my private files would hurt me?" Talia had no answer. The ethics chair took notes. Kira tried to interrupt. Mara said nothing. She did not need to. By the end of the meeting, Kira's presentation was suspended pending formal review. Talia was removed from the festival volunteer list, and I walked into the corridor feeling like my knees belonged to someone else. Kira followed me. "You humiliated me," she hissed. I turned slowly. "How interesting that you recognize the feeling when it happens to you. You brought Mara Voss into this. You brought my work into this. You don't know what she wants from you." Mara stood several steps away, close enough to hear, far enough not to interfere. That was becoming her pattern. Near but not over me. I looked at Kira. "I know what you wanted. You wanted me quiet. You wanted me embarrassed. You wanted me grateful for a bank transfer, and too broken to make trouble." My voice steadied. "You miscalculated." For the first time, Kira looked at me like she did not know who I was. Maybe she never had. So comment witness if you understand this. Sometimes the right person does not fight your battle for you. They stand beside you until your own voice comes back. The festival did not become easy. Nothing real does. But my presentation happened. A smaller room, fewer people, better people, documentary directors, sound editors, grant officers, 2 festival programmers, Mara in the last row, wearing a cream blazer and trying very hard not to look proud. I spoke for 28 minutes. My hands shook for the first 4. Then my voice found me. I explained the heartbeat rhythm. I explained silence as pressure. I explained how sound could make grief feel present before the audience knew why they were crying. When I finished, the applause rose slowly, then fully. Afterward, Mara waited until everyone else had congratulated me. Only then did she approach. "Your third section was stronger live," she said. I stared at her. "That is your compliment?" "It is precise." "Mara." Her mouth softened. "You were extraordinary." That undid me more than the applause, because she said it like it was not encouragement. It was evidence. That night, we walked through Lisbon streets shining with rain. The city smelled of stone, grilled fish, oranges, and old electricity. Music drifted out of a small bar. Someone laughed from a balcony above us. "We are not engaged," I said. "No. We are not dating. No. We are also not normal strangers." "Definitely not." I looked at her. "Do you ever miss the lie?" Mara stopped beneath a yellow street lamp. For once, she did not answer quickly. "I miss the ease of belonging beside you," she said. "My heart made a very foolish decision." "Mara," she shook her head once. "We do nothing with that tonight. You don't know what I was going to say. I know enough to prefer your clarity over my impatience." No one had ever made restraint feel romantic before. Kira's love had demanded proof. Mara's desire made room. And that terrified me more than being kissed would have. We flew back 3 days later. Our seats were not together. I was in 18A. Mara was in 2C. She looked at the boarding passes and said, "An administrative tragedy." "Will you survive without your fiancé?" "Barely." At the gate, Kira appeared. She looked thinner from stress, her polish scratched at the edges. Talia was not with her. "I need to talk to you," she said. Mara looked at me. "Your choice. Always that. My choice." I nodded. 5 minutes. Kira and I moved near the window. Outside, the sky was gray, and planes waited in rain like tired animals. "The board suspended my project," she said. "That sounds like a consequence." Talia left early. "That also sounds like a consequence." Kira's mouth trembled. "I loved you. Maybe," she flinched, "but you loved being forgiven more." Her eyes filled. "Is any part of that engagement real?" I looked toward Mara. She stood near a column, reading something on her phone, elegant and still, yet somehow fully aware of me. "The engagement?" "No," I said. "The respect?" "Yes." Kira followed my gaze. "She'll hurt you. People like that always do." "People like what?" "Powerful. Controlled. Used to getting what they want." I thought of Mara placing her hand palm up during takeoff. I thought of her saying, "We do nothing with that tonight." I thought of her sitting silent in the ethics meeting, so my voice could be the one heard. "Maybe," I said. "But she asks before she reaches." "You didn't." I boarded before Kira could answer. Halfway down the jet bridge, my phone buzzed. A message from Mara. "Seat 2B has unexpectedly become available. The airline apologizes for the inconvenience to your independence." I stopped walking, then I saw her near the aircraft door, expression perfectly neutral except for her eyes. I should have refused. I had spent the week proving I could stand alone. But choosing company is not the same as needing rescue. So I moved to seat 2B. "This is suspicious," I said as I sat. "Very." "Did you bribe someone?" I asked politely. "That sounds worse." I am very effective when polite. We did not pretend on the return flight. No fake engagement, no defensive theater, no borrowed story. Mara worked for the first hour, while I read follow-up emails and tried not to stare at her hands. Then turbulence shook the plane over the channel. My breath caught before I could hide it. Mara placed her hand, palm up on the armrest, exactly as she had on the first flight. "Still your choice," she said. I placed my whole hand in hers. Her fingers closed gently. Not possession. Answer. Back in London, life did what life always does after cinematic disaster. It demanded laundry, invoices, rent, groceries, and a locksmith because Kira still had a key. My flat felt strange without her things. Not empty. Exposed. I filled the spaces slowly. A yellow bowl for the kitchen because Kira hated yellow. A new lamp by the window. Fresh sheets. On the wall above my desk, I taped the festival badge from Lisbon and the note Mara had written on hotel stationery before we left. "Your voice survived. Continue using it." For 3 weeks, Mara and I behaved with painful caution. She had foundation work. I had more emails than I knew how to answer. She sent introductions only after asking. I refused half of them to prove I could. Then I accepted the right ones, because pride is admirable, but rent is monthly. We had coffee twice. Dinner once. Long messages at odd hours that somehow avoided becoming flirtation until one night at 1:17 a.m., she texted, "Do you ever miss the fiction?" I stared at the message under the blue light of my desk lamp until my heart became stupid. I wrote back, "Which part?" Her answer came slowly. "The ease of belonging beside you." I did not respond for 10 minutes because my hands were shaking. Then I wrote, "That might not have been fiction." The next day, Mara came to my studio with coffee and a contract for a sound restoration project at one of the Voss archives. She placed both on my work table. "The contract is professional," she said. "The coffee is personal. You may reject either." "Do you rehearse these lines?" "Constantly. At least you're honest." "Not always." "With you, I am attempting reform." We stood among cables, speakers, old recorders, broken headphones, and stacks of notes. Rain tapped at the high windows. Mara looked out of place in her dark green coat, too precise for my chaos, but somehow right too, as if the room had expected her and forgot to warn me. "I am attracted to you," she said. Apparently reform, in Mara's language, meant walking directly into traffic with perfect posture. "I would like to take you to dinner in a way that is unmistakably a date. I would also like to avoid becoming a continuation of your emergency. If that means waiting, I will wait. If that means no, I will accept no." I set down the cable I had been holding. What if it means yes, but slowly? Something moved across her face so quickly anyone else would have missed it. I did not. I was learning her instruments. "Then slowly," she said. Our first real date had no pretending. Mara took me to a quiet restaurant near the river, where the tables were far enough apart to keep secrets. She wore black. I wore blue because Talia had once said blue was not my color, and I was entering my era of petty rebellion. Mara complimented the dress with such calm sincerity that I forgot the menu for a full minute. We talked about work, grief, family, fear, ambition, loneliness, and how freedom sounds romantic until the invoices arrive. She told me about her former partner, Elise, who had died 9 years earlier, not as a ghost between us, not as a test, as part of the truth. I was very loyal to grief, Mara said, less loyal to life after her. And now? She looked at me across the candlelight. Now I am trying to stop mistaking loneliness for devotion. I told her about Kira without editing myself into dignity. I told her about the nights I had begged for small affection and called it compromise. I told her how much I hated that part of me, still missed the version of Kira that had probably never existed. Mara listened, as if ugliness did not lessen me. Outside the restaurant, weak rain fell over the street. She turned to me. "May I kiss you?" I almost laughed because the question was so simple, and because no one had ever made simple feel like luxury. "Yes," I said. Mara kissed the way she had pretended to be my fiancée, with restraint that did not feel cold, with attention that did not feel like hunger, pretending to be love. Her hand touched my jaw only after my fingers found her sleeve. Her mouth was warm, careful, devastating. When she pulled back, she stayed close enough for her breath to touch mine. "Still slow?" she asked. "Maybe a little less slow." Her smile nearly ruined me. Noted. If you have ever been loved loudly by the wrong person and then gently by the right one, comment "slow love." Because sometimes slow love is not boring. Sometimes slow love is how your nervous system learns it is finally safe. The slow part was not graceful. People imagine slow burn romance as candlelight and meaningful glances. In real life, it was also missed calls, overthinking punctuation, and me standing in my kitchen at midnight arguing with a packet of instant noodles because Mara had asked whether I had eaten, and I resented how much I liked being noticed. Kira had noticed me selectively. She noticed me when I reflected well on her, when I was charming at dinners, useful at screenings, quiet during her stress, forgiving after her disappearances. Mara noticed the ugly logistics, the unpaid invoice I kept pretending not to fear, the blue folder on my desk that held the lease termination forms from the flat I had shared with Kira, the way I answered messages quickly when anxious and slowly when hurt. She did not push. That made her harder to resist. One rainy Tuesday, a courier arrived with a crate of damaged audio reels from the Voss archive. The kind of project that should have come through a committee and 6 months of polite emails. Inside, beneath the formal contract, Mara had placed a handwritten note. No favor. Paid rate attached. Decline without explanation if timing feels wrong. I stared at those 3 sentences until Lena snatched the paper from my hand. "Is this flirting?" "It's a professional boundary." Sweetheart, rich lesbians invented professional boundaries so they could flirt in legal language. Do not call her a rich lesbian, like she is a dessert category. Lena lifted one eyebrow. Do not defend the terrifying foundation woman if you are not emotionally compromised. I am not compromised. I am cautiously appreciative. That is exactly what emotionally compromised people call themselves when stationery is involved. I accepted the contract because the rate was fair, the work was mine to do, and refusing every opportunity Mara pointed toward me would have been letting Kira keep controlling the map by making certain roads feel contaminated. The reels were beautiful, in the exhausted way old things become beautiful after surviving water, smoke, and bad storage. I spent days cleaning tape, repairing breaks, transferring sound, listening for ghosts inside damaged frequencies. Mara visited once, supposedly to check on archive property, though she arrived with coffee in one hand and a brown paper bag from the bakery I liked in the other. "You don't trust other people to bring pastries?" I asked. "I distrust raisins." A reasonable prejudice. She stood at my work table while rain tapped at the windows. Her coat was damp at the shoulders. I could tell she had come from a board meeting by the tension at the base of her jaw and the earrings she wore when she expected men to underestimate her. Small diamonds, severe enough to qualify as weapons. "Bad day?" I asked. "Tedious." That's Mara for bad. It is Mara for tedious. Bad involves lawyers before lunch. I smiled, then looked down too quickly when her gaze warmed. The studio felt suddenly smaller. She moved toward the tape machine. What happened to this reel? Water damage. The oxide is shedding, so I have to stabilize it before transfer. Can you repair it? Not erase the damage. Stabilize it. Make it speak again. Mara was quiet long enough that I looked at her. She was not looking at the reel. She was looking at me. What? Nothing. That is not a nothing face. I was thinking your work has given you an inconveniently compassionate vocabulary. I touched the edge of the reel case. Damage is only romantic in metaphors. In practice, it mostly smells bad and requires patience. Patience is underrated, by people who are not waiting. Her expression changed, softened but not carelessly. Are you waiting, Noor? I could have pretended not to understand. I could have made a joke. Instead, I breathed in the smell of old tape, coffee, rain, and said, I am trying to know the difference between moving slowly and hiding. Mara nodded once, as if the answer deserved respect instead of reassurance. Tell me when you know. What if I tell you before I know completely? Then I will listen to the part that is clear, and not exploit the rest. That was the kind of sentence that made me want to kiss her, and run away in equal measure. I did neither. I handed her a pastry knife, because my hands needed something practical to survive the tenderness. The first public rumor appeared 2 days later on an arts gossip site. Mara Voss seen with festival sound designer after Lisbon's scandal. There was a blurred photograph of us leaving the hotel. The comments were worse. Career upgrade. Fake fiancé became funded girlfriend. No wonder she won. Poor Kira. I read the comments for 11 minutes. 10 minutes and 55 seconds too long. Then I threw my phone onto the couch and stood in the middle of my flat, feeling dirty in a way soap could not fix. Kira had once told me public opinion was weather. She was wrong. Weather has no memory. Public opinion stores every version of you except the true one. Mara called within an hour. Did you see it? I asked, skipping hello. Yes. Did your people send you a folder with suggested responses? 3. 1 legal, 1 strategic, and 1 written by my communications director after too much coffee. Despite myself, I laughed. Which one are we using? None until you decide whether you want to respond. I sat on the floor because my legs had lost interest in usefulness. I hate that strangers think they know what happened. Yes. I hate that part of me wants you to correct them, and another part hates needing you to. Also yes. Are you going to offer anything besides agreement? Not unless requested. I pressed the heel of my hand to my eyes. I don't know what I'm requesting. Then I can tell you what I know. Please. Her voice became gentler, though never fake soft. The article is cruel, but its reach is limited. My name will make the story larger if I move too quickly. Your name will feel smaller if you stay silent only because you are afraid. Neither problem needs to be solved tonight. What do I do tonight? Eat something. Block the site. Put your phone in another room. Let Lena insult me if it helps her feel useful. She already called you my morally complicated fairy godwife. A pause. Then Mara said, I will accept morally complicated. I laughed until the pressure behind my ribs loosened. Later, after I did eat, after I did block the site, after Lena sent me a voice note consisting entirely of creative profanity about gossip writers, Mara texted 1 line. You are not smaller because people look badly. I wrote it on the back of a receipt and pinned it above my desk. The real confrontation came 6 weeks later at the Voss archive launch, because stories with people like Kira never end privately when public sympathy remains available. The festival review had concluded. Kira's project was disqualified. My work was credited properly. Talia sent 1 long apology I did not answer, because not every apology deserves access. I thought the worst had passed. Then Kira arrived at the launch with a new patron on her arm, and found me standing beside Mara near the restored audio installation I had built. Still playing Fiancée? She asked. Her voice was sweet enough for nearby donors, sharp enough for me. Mara did not move her hand to my back. She did not step in front of me. She let the moment belong to me. I appreciated it. I hated it for 3 seconds. No, I said. That ended when the flight landed. Kira's eyes brightened. So this is what? Another performance? A choice. Yours? She laughed softly. You think Mara Voss chooses women like you? She collects broken artists, Noor. Projects. Sad stories. Things she can fix. For 1 second, the old wound opened. Not because I believed her. Because she knew exactly where to press. Mara's face became very still. The room seemed to feel it. Conversations dimmed around us. Kira, Mara said. Kira looked at her. What? Did I insult your latest investment? Mara stepped closer. Not in threat. In truth. You are confusing care with ownership, because ownership is the only intimacy you understand. I did not choose Noor because she was hurt. I admired her because she told the truth while shaking. I wanted her because she returned to her work when disappearing would have been easier. And I love her because every time someone tries to write her story for her, she takes the pen back. The word love entered the room before either of us had said it privately. Kira heard it, the donors heard it. A curator pretended very hard not to hear it. I heard it most of all. Mara realized what she had done. Her eyes came to mine. Apology and fear moved beneath her composure. I could have let the public moment swallow us. Instead, I reached for her hand. My choice, I said softly. Her breath caught. You skipped a few steps, I added. Yes. Very unlike you. Humiliating. I laughed, breathless and close to tears. Then I turned back to Kira. You don't get to define this. You don't get to define her. You don't get to make every gentle thing look dangerous just because you were cruel. I was betrayed. I was humiliated. I was helped. I recovered. All of those things are true. None of them belong to you. Kira looked suddenly smaller than her dress, smaller than her reputation, smaller than the story she had been trying to sell since Gate 19. She said nothing. For once, nothing was the best she had. Comment choice if you believe real love should not feel like being owned. It should feel like being free enough to stay. After Kira left, Mara guided me into a quiet side gallery where the lights were low and old photographs watched without gossip. She closed the door, but did not lock it. I noticed. Of course I noticed. I'm sorry, she said. For defending me? For saying love before asking whether the word was welcome. My chest hurt with tenderness. Mara, you asked before holding my hand during turbulence. You asked before kissing me. You asked before sending me work contacts. You ask before stepping into rooms where I am bleeding. You are allowed to have a feeling without filing paperwork first. That is not my strongest skill. Feeling? Letting it be visible. I stepped closer. She watched me with the same focus she had given the sky from seat 7C, as if the next movement mattered, because it did. I love you too, I said. Not because you saved me, not because you made Kira jealous, not because you called me your fiancé on a plane. I love you because you keep making room for me to choose. And somehow, I keep choosing you. Mara closed her eyes. For a moment, the powerful Mara Voss simply stood there with my words in her hands, undone and silent. Then she opened her eyes. May I kiss you? I smiled. You'd better. This kiss was not careful in the same way. It was still respectful, still listening. But it carried the heat of all the restraint that had come before it. My back met the cool wall, beside a black and white photograph of a woman holding a microphone. Mara's hand braced near my shoulder, not trapping me, just holding the world steady, while I pulled her closer by the lapel of her jacket. When her mouth left mine to rest against my temple, I was trembling, but not from humiliation anymore. Still slow, she whispered. Slow enough to be safe, I said. Fast enough to be honest. She breathed a laugh into my hair. A precise answer. I'm learning from terrible influences. A year later, I boarded another flight to Lisbon. This time, I was invited as a keynote speaker. My studio had survived. Then it had grown. Lena had become full-time and demanded a title, so I made her operations director, because emotional support menace was not professional enough for email signatures. Talia had written again twice. I answered the second time, not with forgiveness exactly, but with the peace of a woman no longer carrying the conversation in her bones. Kira changed firms and eventually disappeared from my daily imagination, which was the only revenge that mattered. Mara and I did not become simple. Love with a woman who chaired foundations, carried old grief carefully, and had a terrifying habit of solving problems before breakfast was never going to be simple. Love with a woman recovering from public betrayal and professional theft was never going to be effortless. We argued about help, about pride, about how often Mara tried to strategize before I had finished feeling. She learned to ask, "Do you want comfort or a solution?" I learned that accepting either did not make me weak. We built something without pretending the foundation had not once been an emergency. At gate 19, Mara handed me coffee. I looked at her suspiciously. "What?" "Your boarding pass," she said. I looked down. Seat 7B. Then I looked at hers. Seat 7C. "You arranged this." I prefer to call it emotional symmetry. You are a menace. An efficient one. On the plane, she took the aisle, and I took the middle. The window seat stayed empty for the first few minutes, as if the universe had finally learned when not to intrude. We were not engaged. Not yet. Maybe one day. Maybe not. Love, I had learned, did not become real only when metal announced it. Sometimes love began as fiction, spoken over an armrest to protect a stranger from cruelty. Sometimes it became tea with honey, a hand held during turbulence, a witness in a meeting, a kiss asked for in the rain, a truth spoken too early in a crowded room and welcomed anyway. As the plane began to taxi, I looked past Mara's shoulder at the runway lights. The first time I had sat beside her, I had been raw with loss, wearing a fake title like armor. Now I sat there with my own name restored, my own work credited, and my own heart not perfectly healed, but healed enough to want without disappearing. Mara placed her hand palm up on the armrest. "For takeoff," she said. I slid my fingers into hers. For continuity. Her smile warmed the small space between us. The engines roared. The ground fell away. This time I did not close my eyes. I watched the city shrink beneath the wing and thought about the woman in seat 7C, the stranger who called me her fiancée before my ex could destroy me. The woman who taught me that the most romantic kind of protection is not being claimed in front of the people who hurt you. It is being given room, again and again, to choose who you become after they leave. So tell me in the comments, if someone protected you with a lie, but loved you with the truth, would you call that fate, healing, or the beginning of real love?